Last spring, Lowell Peterson was in my office, and he was giving me a name to look into for the Hall of Fame. He said, it's something top secret, lasers are involved, and he was the valedictorian of my class. And my reply was, well, okay, lasers, you know, there's been over 100 valedictorians, Lowell, so help me out here. And he was, I think, frustrated because he couldn't tell me a lot about this guy's job, and he just ended with, if I told you, I'd have to kill you. Our next inductee is Richard Hake, Jr., sorry. Rick grew up in Worland and went to all 12 years of school here. His junior year, Rick was a member of the Rocketeers group that launched 5 solid propellant rockets around Worland and was subsequently publicized in the Saturday Evening Post's Faces of America series that you'll see on the next slide. Rick attended Boys State as well as the National Science Foundation's Summer Science Institute following his junior year. He won the Bighorn Basin High School Mathematics competition during his senior year. Rick was the valedictorian of the WHS class of 1960. He was then admitted to the California Institute of Technology with honors at entrance and graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in physics in 1964. Rick then got a job with Westinghouse Corporation Research Laboratories for 2 years, resulting in lead authorship of Physical Review journal articles on laser gas physics. He then went to graduate school, earning a PhD in upper atmospheric physics from the University of Pittsburgh in 1970, and continued there with a postdoctoral fellowship for 2 years. Rick's doctoral and postdoctoral work, he fielded optical instruments at 9 remote sites, from Thule, Greenland, and I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, Rick, so you can correct me when you come up here, to the Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands. Rick was employed with Stanford Research Institute from 1972 to 1983, specializing in laser-based remote sensing and high-altitude nuclear effects. He was a member of a NASA panel to define laser-based hardware for remote sensing from the space shuttle. He was also on a guidance panel for the Department of Defense. Rick was then employed by Lockheed Space Systems, now Lockheed Martin, from 1983 to 2004. During that time, he was involved in and managed programs of national significance, including the school bus-sized Milstar communications satellites, the design of the Lockheed portion of the Lockheed Boeing TRW space-based laser experiment, the architecture study for the space-based laser constellation of up to 40 satellites to defend the United States from an intercontinental ballistic missile attack, and his final program was the airborne laser, which succeeded in shooting down a thrusting missile from standoff distance. Rick retired in 2004 and now lives in Menlo Park, California. He was married in 1964, and he and his wife have 2 children and 3 grandchildren. I give to you the guy who Lowell Peterson called the smartest man to ever graduate from Worland, Richard Hake, Jr.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Lowell. I am somewhat humbled by being the speaker after these first 3 speakers. And I can appreciate what the crowd is that I am joining. And I appreciate it a great deal. An award like this inspires a look back to see what has led to this moment. There are pivotal memories, there are people that have guided me along the way. I'd like to share a few of those thoughts and weave it into a story of what it is that this award means to me, and hopefully to you as well. My early school years gave me companionship with a wide range of kids and a joy of learning that was recognized without being ridiculed. Junior high and high school continued that way, but with growing differences in direction and destination of my fellow students. But I never felt hostility from any of the various groups that were involved or that developed. One striking memory I have is as a senior in high school when I was at the cemetery at freshman initiation and was approached by the star running back of the football team who congratulated me for the energy that I showed in rubbing ketchup in the hair of some unfortunate freshman. He was a jock, I was a geek, but we were all in this together. There's a picture of the rocket launch in the Badlands that Aaron showed before. Another memory that I have is working in the high school ag shop, building that rocket, being guided by our fellow Rocketeer and Future Farmers of America member Larry Swing, who arranged for our access to the ag shop and taught us how to use the tools there. We would never have launched those rockets. I would never have had the confidence to use a drill press during my college and graduate school days. I would never have had the understanding of metal parts and the confidence to manage structural engineers to develop satellites and space weapons without Larry's good-natured tutelage. Thank you, Larry. Another long-lasting high school memory is participating in the panel event at a speech meet in Cody. My English teacher had enrolled me in that event without my ever having done one of those events before. And I can remember looking at the score from that event and seeing that I got a pretty high score and wondering what that was all about, and realized that it wasn't the ideas that I injected about the topic that we were talking about. It was how I listened to and pulled ideas and fitted the ideas together from the other panel members that had gotten that high score. That gave me the recognition of the value of listening to other people and my inclination to bring out the strengths of other team members. That has led me into leadership positions in the aerospace industry throughout my career. There are many other high school memories that I have of the rewards of learning. Their relevance here is the solid grounding that I received in many, many subjects, and the respect and fellowship from the community that allowed me to prosper in the areas that finally interested me. It took me a while to realize what I was really good at. My first concentration was basic science, and that was in college and graduate school. And then when I joined the Stanford Research Institute, I moved into some applied areas, and where I learned the size and the ways of the defense industry. And I discovered the thrill of aerospace projects and hired into Lockheed Missiles in Space. There I moved up the management chain as I mastered what was needed to build really large aerospace projects. I'm not allowed by security classification. I mean, Aaron told you what I would have to do if I told you what I was doing. But I can say that the size of the program that I was working on was similar to the size of the program that built the B-52 bomber. That is a pretty big program. I got out of the classified program areas and moved into military space efforts, such as that school bus-sized Milstar communications satellite. You haven't seen a picture, but the final program that I worked on was the space-based laser, which is about the size of 2 school buses. And that was one of the final developments coming out of Reagan's Star Wars program. My strongest memory of those years is standing in the front of a room in Washington, D.C., in front of a room full of generals and the Assistant Secretary of Defense of the United States, and telling that group what it would take to build a defense against the Russian and the Chinese nuclear ballistic missile threat. Well, the Star Wars program had killed that threat. It was no longer there. So wisely, that space-based laser program was not funded. But the approach and the knowledge of how to do that still lives in Washington, D.C., and can be resurrected if that threat ever arrives again. So I see this award as recognition that Worland High School can send into the outside world a student that is capable of contributing to the defense of the town of Worland, of the state of Wyoming, and of the nation as a whole. It is a national recognition of the achievement of the education system of one Wyoming town. So I'd like to thank the school system and the town of Worland for sending me into the world a complete person with the ability and the inclination to have an impact on events that keep us safe and lead us forward. Thank you, Worland.